Hello again and welcome to the Warhammer 40k Imperial Guard Tactics video. So today's video we're going to be looking at this concept of Guardifying another faction. So what do I mean by that? Well, essentially taking some of the basic principles of a successful Imperial Guard army and applying it to a totally different faction. And just seeing if it is successful or not. Now I've done this with 3 different factions. I'm trying to think. Yes, I've done this with my Black Templars, I've done it with my Genestealer cults, and I've done it with some Tau Empire. Now I know a lot of you have just clicked off the video, burnt your PCs and said, Mordian Glory, just use Tau. Haha, the world has come to the end. It's just the end is nigh. Well, before you all, put the Inquisition onto me, hear me out. The reason I've been doing this is, and it's one of these things I've been testing, is people go on about Imperial Guard being really, really powerful in 8th edition. That even now they still need some nerfs, this, that, and the other. And I don't think that's true at all. I just think the way that Imperial Guard players think and the way that we approach armies is perfect for 8th edition. Okay? And I think it's something that a lot of players just need to get their heads around, because I just think it's probably the main reason why a lot of people have struggled in 8th edition versus Guard. But when they've gone up against other factions, they haven't struggled as much. Okay, and what I'm talking about here is the Guard have this philosophy of, to a greater or lesser extent, quantity has a quality of its own. Why pay for 1 of X when I can afford 3 of Y? Why pay for one big unit that's going to absolutely, Death Star unit that's going to absolutely destroy the enemy, when for the same price I can get 10, 20 other units which will accumulatively be able to achieve the same goal, but it's 20 units instead of 1. This is the thing that Guard do. This is all sort of saying I like to use when I'm sort of talking to people about how Guard works and stuff, and it's take advantage of the number one thing that Guard can do. We will always have more redundancy than any other faction out there. If it's worth taking once in the Guard, it's worth taking 4 times, because the first time you take it, it'll die. The unit will die. Second time, it'll just run away or fail. And the third and fourth unit you take will actually achieve the jobs overall. That's what you need to do. And and if you look at a Guard stat, that makes sense. We hit on 4s most of the time. Half of the time we hit something, half the time we don't. So half the units that we take will be useless, and half the units that we take will pick up the slack for the other half. We'll do the job, we'll get it done. This is Guard through and through. So I've been looking at this, and I've been basically trying it out with different factions, and all I've been doing is taking a solid core of troops. I don't know these factions. Even with my Black Templars, I don't know them really, really well. I don't know them instinctively like I know my Imperial Guard. I'm getting there, but I don't know them instinctively. Genestealer cult, they do play similar to Guard, but at the same time they are quite different in if played traditionally. Space Marines, if played traditionally, don't work the same way as Guard. Tau traditionally don't play completely different to Imperial Guard. But what happens when you go, no, fuck that, I'm going to make these factions play like Imperial Guard? Well, to be honest, guys, the results have been relatively, I wouldn't say surprising, but reaffirming, which is it works. It's not bad. Now, that's not to say I've won every single game with these factions. That's not true. But a lot of that comes down to just inexperience, with not knowing exactly what to expect from each unit. But with my Genestealer cult, the first game I had with them, I took 120 neophyte hybrids, and bearing in mind this was against like the 9 plague burst crawler list before the FAQ. I took 120 neophyte hybrids, loaded them up with special weapons and mining lasers, you know, grenade launchers and mining lasers, and then took 4 Lehman Russes. And whilst I lost that first game, I got tempted away, because what I did is what I wanted to do was to create 2 solid firing bases of 60 infantry and 2 tanks each. And what I ended up doing is having my 4 tanks, but just 60 infantry up front, and then I got tempted away, and I used the other 60 infantry to like ambush forward and try and do damage to the plague burst crawlers, and it didn't really work. It didn't really work. I tried locking up the plague burst. It wasn't a great idea. I got tempted away, so I played a couple more games, and I forced myself. One was against not a new Blood Angels player. He's got a few games under his belt, but he's only been playing in 8th edition, so he's that new. Or was it Dark Angels? I can't remember. It was a Space Marine list. I can't remember exactly what it was, if I'm going to be honest. Space Marine list had a mixture of Primaris and regular tactical Marines. There was a Dreadnought in there, and a Storm. What's the small one? Storm Talent. There you go. So a relatively, a balanced-ish Space Marine list. And what I made sure I did instead was I held back. I didn't even use Cult Ambush. As crazy as that sounds, I didn't use Cult Ambush. I just had. I swapped around some upgrades, so I got an extra 20 infantry. So I had 140 infantry and 3 patriarchs, so that I could keep everyone fearless, and then if I got attacked close combat, I could counter attack. And then I had my 4 Lehman Russes, and it worked really, really well. My infantry were fearless. They were able to put out significant quantities of damage. They were able to move up the board. I had counter-attack capabilities with my... Well, they weren't hidden power fists. I like to put power fists on Lord Commissars and use them as counter-attack ability in my guard army. But I had Patriarchs instead, which are really, really good at close combat. I just had this balanced list, and it wasn't the way Gene Stealer Cult normally played. Gene Stealer Cult are normally close combat, in your face, and they rely on that Cult Ambush, and I went, no, I'm not going to do that. I saw Cult Ambush as almost a trap. Now, I'm sure if you are a Gene Stealer Cult player, you're thinking, what the fuck is he doing? There's no way. There's no way, why would you even do that? Why wouldn't you want to get in close combat? It's well, think about it, the units I've taken aren't designed for close combat. And yeah, if I went up against a really shooty army, maybe I would get outshot, but there's still a lot more I can do with that army. But the thing is, against Space Marines, it was just easy. It wasn't hard. I had 140 infantry, all pretty mobile, going at him. I had heavy stubbers, I had mining lasers, I had a mixture, just going at them, and my tanks held back and just bombarded them. And there was 140 fearless infantry, so we had to kill every last one of them. And they just got, Space Marines just got overwhelmed. They got absolutely overwhelmed by it. Assault Marines got in amongst one of my Neophyte Hybrid squads and absolutely, cut them apart. After doing after they've been shredded a bit by firepower. But the Patriots went in there and just cleaned out most of them. There's a 10-man Assault Marine squad. Patriot just shot up half of them with another blob. Patriot went in and finished them off, and it worked. Now, obviously, with my Black Templars, I've kind of Guardified them by running my Black Tide. And I thought my Black Tide just wouldn't work. I thought it's just not going to work. Space Marines are all about being super elite, and it's not really, it's just, I'm not getting in my opponent's face turn 1 or turn 2, It just doesn't work. Well, actually, I played 4 games. I played Death, Watch, Blood Angels, Dark Angels, and Death Corps of Krieg with my Black Tide. I won every single game. It was not that close. I mean, the closest game was the first time I used it, and I really fucked my deployment. I only had 11 Marines left at the end, but I tabled my opponent. Black Tide works because what I did is I've just taken this solid amount of infantry, 60 Marines, and then the other 40 Marines, because I can't really afford like, because when I went to my Black Tide, I can't really afford like tanks as well, obviously. But I take 40 shooting marines, and the purpose of the shooting marines is to essentially be my tank. Because each one of those squads has got 2 plasma guns and a heavy bolter and 7 bolt guns, and that's enough. That's enough for a light vehicle. You know, that's a decent amount of firepower. You know, especially when I'm getting reroll ones to hit, reroll ones to wound. Get Storm of Fire in there as well. It helps. It really does. And again, it's this concept of having this solid, you know, taking massive amounts of core units. You know, Gene Stealer cults traditionally, you've got aberrants getting up in the opponent's face. You've got acolytes, you know, ambushing forward or jumping out of trucks. You've got patriarchs and maguses and all these kind of things. Pure strain Gene Stealers, and it's all close combat. And there's like a smattering of like neophytes, like hold objectives, and maybe you'll see a cult Lehman Russ. Maybe you'll see 2 cult Lehman Russes. You know, maybe you'll see a little bit of shooty, and the focus is choppy. But the problem with that is that because Cult Ambush, and I was watching, and some of you will probably know this channel, the Phil the Glacial Geek. If you haven't seen his channel, go over there. He's one of the only people I know that does regular Gene Stealer Cult videos. I think he's got a recent one up with Gene Stealer Cult with his Netcon, so I'm looking forward to watching actually. Yeah, if you guys haven't seen his channel, get over there. It's really, really good. But he did a video on learning how to play / how to play against Gene Stealer Cult, and one thing he said is, with the Cult Ambush, the game is just won or lost on if you get a good Cult Ambush roll or not. And if you don't, you've lost the game. And if you do, you've absolutely destroyed your opponent. Well, that's not really a good... That's so swingy. That's so swingy, you don't want it to be like that. And so what I ended up using my Cult Ambush for, and what I'm going to start using it for, is I'm just going to Cult Ambush 1 unit with a Primus. That's it, 1 unit with a Primus. And their whole job is to just wait for as long as possible and then Cult Ambush. No, bare bones, by the way. This is going to be 100 points of just 20 auto guns. And I'm just going to wait and get Line Breaker with them. I'm going to spend about 150, 170 points just to guarantee myself Line Breaker. That's pretty good. You know, I could tone it down a bit if I only want to take 10. But that's spending 170 points to guarantee yourself Line Breaker is very important. I often find my games are won and lost on secondaries. So yeah, so the final one that I want to talk about, the final concept that I want to talk about is Guardifying. And this is the one I used recently, and it's unbelievably deadly. Unbelievably deadly was Tau. Now, as we all know, Tau are famous for their battle suits. Riptides, Crisis suits, Tau Commanders. What's the big stompy one? The Storm Surge. Oh, for Tau, it's all about battle suits. It's Gundam, or however you pronounce it. It's all Japanese battle suits, mecha, blah, blah, blah. But you know what? I took a look at that and went, that's not very good. Crisis suits are so expensive. Tau Commanders are no longer spammable. Riptides are okay. But why spend like 200 points on a Riptide when for the same price you could get 30 Fire Warriors? Fire Warriors are OBSEC. Fire Warriors with support will put out as much damage as a Riptide. And so what I did is and this is the one where I've actually had a lot of time and experience, like I've used this in, well, I'll say experience, theory crafting it. I've used this in 2 games now, one against Space Marines, one against Harlequins. So I know Harlequins aren't great, but Space Marines are solid. And it worked, it tabled both armies by turn, I think it was my turn 4, and I went first in both games. No, I went second in the first game. But I tabled both armies within 3 to 4 turns. And what I did is I Guardified it, and I took the rule of 3 concept. And I made 3 castles. So I took 3 squads of 12 Fire Warriors, a squad of 10 Pathfinders, so that's 46 models. Then I took 2 Pulse Accelerator drones, a Fireblade, and an Ethereal. And a Firesight Marksman. 51 models. And then I took a Hammerhead. And I took that with a Rail Cannon. And Smart Missile System. And I took that 3 times. So I had 108 Fire Warriors, 30 Pathfinders, and character support. And I took that set, I think it's Borcan, where you get plus 6 inches to your range. So what I have is 30-inch range pulse rifles with plus 6 inches from the pulse alerted range, which just hide out of line of sight, and then plus 6 inches for being Borcan, or whichever scepter it is. 42-inch range Pathfinder, 42-inch range pulse rifles. That's a 21-inch range rapid fire. Thanks to the Fireblade, each one of my soldiers was getting 3 pulse rifle shots at 21-inch range. That is almost like each one of my Fire Warriors having a heavy bolter. I just don't have the AP -1. And 42-inch range just meant I could touch anything on the battlefield. Imagine, basically, if it was like a heavy bolter, except for I had 6-inch more range, I didn't have AP -1. Each castle, there was a marker light on each sergeant, so that's 3. 1 on the Fireblade, so that's 4. 1 on the Firesight Marksman, so that's 5. And then 10 on the Pathfinders. Now, so that's 15 marker lights. Which means I was guaranteed, even when my Pathfinder started taking casualties early on, because they always do, I was guaranteed to get the 5 marker light hits that I needed to get. Occasionally I had to use the stratagem that gives you extra marker light hits. When you get 5 marker lights, Tau just go nuts. They're re-rolling 1 to hit, they're ignoring cover, they're getting +1 to hit. So suddenly all my Fire Warriors, whose number 1 downside is they don't only have Ballistic Skill 4+, suddenly they've got Ballistic Skill 3+. It's absolutely fantastic. Rerolling 1s to hit. That's like Space Marines. Hitting on 3+, rerolling 1s to hit. And all I did, guys, is I dug these guys into cover. I just got them in cover. So suddenly, my Fire Warriors have got a 3+ save. And, you know, there was the occasion, you know, there was one, there was 2 squads that couldn't fit into cover in both games. I just didn't have them as the front line squad. I just had them a little further back. Absolutely brutal. Absolutely insane. Oh yeah, I also took Darkstrider so he could look at something within 18 inches and make it -1 toughness, which made a big difference against Harlequins. Because when these like bloody 20 troop guys started coming towards me, and they started getting amongst my lines, hacking me up, I just went Darkstrider, make that squad -1 toughness. Everyone wound them on 2s. Just killed them all. Absolutely brutalised them. Same with the Space Marines. Space Marines just didn't know what to do. They were outmassed, outranged, outgunned. They couldn't get close to me. Because, guess what? Those 5 Terminators that drop down and charge, well, everyone's within 6 inches of each other. So the 5 Terminators that dropped down just got absolutely hosed. Because I just went, right, my marker lights, just going to fire, you know, 15 marker lights on Overwatch. Literally 15 marker lights on Overwatch. I only need to get 1 or 2 to get reroll 1s to hit. And then 5 Terminators trying to take on 36 Fire Warriors. Rerolling 1s to hit. 3 shots each. I killed 2 of them before they even got in. Just killed 2 of them. But I think one of the, you know, I think I took a wound. I think I killed 2.5. So these Terminators come in, kill like half a squad of Fire Warriors, and then just pull back and just gun them down. Just crazy. And it's not a guard. It's not a Tau army. No one does this with Tau. There's not a single battlesuit in the entire army. It's just insane. And it's one of these things where it's like, I've Guardified the army, and what I've done is I've just taken masses of infantry and backed up with a few hammerheads. You know, that was a brigade. Pathfinder's a fast attack. Fast marksmen are elites. Hammerheads are heavy support. Everything else is troops or HQ. I think I had to take a brigade and a battalion. That's what I did. I took a brigade and a battalion because I had 9 Fire Warrior squads, so 6 went in the brigade with 4 of the characters, 3 went in the battalion with 2 of the characters. It's just an insane amount of of stratagems. Just crazy. And I think this is what people don't get. This is what we're talking about, this Guardifying thing. The whole point of this is not me to, like, blow my own trumpet, wank myself off and make myself sound amazing. No, I lost a lot of games as well. I'm just talking about, like, the ones that I won. Like, I lost my first Gene Stealer Cult game. I won with the Tau game. I've done well with the Black Templars, but there's a lot of games where I lost with the Black Templars first. A lot of games. I'm not even on the number of wins and losses that I've got with the Black Templars. Not by a long way. But the point is, what I'm saying is, I think this is why Guard did so well when it came to 8th edition. And I think this is what, I think almost any faction can be improved by not Guardifying it, but going into it with an 8th edition mindset. If it's worth taking once, take it 3 times. Yes, that one big super unit is good, but would you be better taking off 3 or 4 smaller units that can get the job done just as well, but aren't such a big threat? I think it's because, like I said, Guard in 6th and 7th edition, we got so used to having to run masses of infantry that when 8th edition dropped, we were ready for it. We just took the same. I don't think, when I went into 8th edition, my army list didn't change. I took infantry and Leman Russes, and conscripts, didn't make a difference. I know so many people that went to 8th edition and they had to rejig their lists over and over and over again, and they never quite got it right. And there's, like, a good example that isn't me of someone who's got it, who figured it out, was the Blood Angels player, experienced Blood Angels player. I think I mentioned it before. The guy wants to have the whole chapter. He's like halfway to getting the full chapter of Blood Angels, like fluff as well, like proper companies and everything. And for ages, at the beginning of 8th edition, all he would run was like Vanguard detachments, and he had like Sanguinary Guard in one and Death Company in the other, and he just kept trying these, and his armies just kept getting more and more elite, and he just kept losing harder and harder and harder. And I just said to him, like, after one game where I think I barely lost anything and I tabled him, I just said, just take a brigade. Have you just tried taking like a mass infantry, not mass infantry, but a non-elite Blood Angels army? And he was like, I haven't tried it, but I'll give it a go. I said, why don't you just try it? Just try it and spam as many lascannons. And I told him about go big or go home. I was like, just try spamming as many lascannons as you get your hands on. Next game he played, he turned up with a brigade. He had 15 Devastators, all with lascannons, loads of scout squads with like snipers and bolters, loads of tactical squads. He had like 9 troop droids. So tactical squads, each one of those had a lascannon in it, and he had some. He still had like a big blob of Death Company, but essentially he had something like 70 or 80 Marines on the board. Now, he didn't win. I want to say this. He didn't win, but he faced the exact same army he'd faced before. And he almost beat me. It came down to I was able to move on to an objective. That's all it came down to. I mean, that's a big difference. Me, using my Armageddon Steel Legion, but at this point where I had 10 games in my belt, I'd fine-tuned the army, it was in the most distilled format, and he was using a list that he'd never used before, but he'd completely switched up his tactics, completely switched up his list, completely switched up his state of mind, and he went from the week before getting tabled without killing anything, basically, to being on very much equal footing. And he basically Guardified his list. He took a solid core of troops, OBSEC units, and backed it up with significant fire support. And he almost, like I said, he almost won. It came down to a few key dice rolls. And even then, he still took 15 Death Company with Lamatis, and he still took like some Sanguinary Guard as well. And I just thought, what if he hadn't taken those Death Company? What if he hadn't taken those Sanguinary Guard? What if instead he'd use all those points to get more line infantry, to get more Devastators, to get more just redundancy on the field? I think he would have won. I think it would have easily won. His assault units tickled me. I'm all in chimeras. I don't care if you lock 2 or 3 chimeras up in a turn. I just don't care. I'm just going to pull back, get out, and blast you off the table. And that's exactly what I did. His assault units didn't do very much, but his shooter units and his scouts running distraction, running disruption, they did very well. Tactical Marines, fantastic. Last cannons of the Tactical Marines, couldn't go wrong. So, there you go, guys. Guardifying a faction. Getting on with an 8th edition mindset. Now, I've talked about quite a few examples here, but do you guys have any examples of where this has come into play, where either you are not a guard player and you've just guardified your army, or you've given advice to someone and they've guardified their army, or 8th edition their army, and they've started doing better? Let's see if we can get some good examples. Like, I don't really know how you guardify Eldar. Mass Star Avengers backed up by Fire Prisms? Maybe. I don't know if that would work. Necrons. This is the last example I want to give you. I got a Necron battle report coming up. Me versus Necrons. It's only 1,000 points. And the Necron army is very much like a guard. It's like a Necron guard army. It's a solid core of warriors backed up by support elements. And let me tell you guys, no spoilers, it gives me a real run for my money. Real run for money. That battle should be coming up this week. So, hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Leave lots of comments as always. And as always, I'll see you guys next time.